and welcome to Town Hall 2025. I'm your moderator, Daniel Crow. The original Town Hall was hosted by Jack Faust, a true giant of Oregon history from 1980 until 1993. Town Hall was a weekly public affairs program on Channel 2, featuring discussions, often contentious, between public officials, experts, and everyday Oregonians on topics that range from the serious, like child abuse, to the somewhat less so, like Bigfoot. Halfway through his run, Jack even had on a young 16-year-old from Mount Angel on his way to West Point. Yours truly. With Jack's blessing, it is my great honor and solemn responsibility to carry on the baton that Jack carried so well. Our goal here is to revive that spirit of robust, peaceable public debate, which has always characterized our Oregon way. Together, I think that we can do some good for all of our people. And we began with Series 1, the race for Oregon Republican Party Chair 2025. Soon to come, Series 2, the race for Oregon Democratic Party Chair 2025. If you, our audience, decide that talking with one another rather than past one another is preferable, well, maybe we'll be getting to know each other a little bit better. Welcome to Town Hall 2025, Series 1, the race for Oregon Republican Party Chair. I'm your host, Daniel Crow, and before we begin, I'd like to lay out the ground rules. We begin with two special series. Series 1, the race for Oregon Republican Party Chair 2025, and Series 2, the race for Democratic Party Chair 2025. Since Oregon Republicans will choose their leader first on February 22nd, we will begin with them. Oregon Democrats will choose their leader on March 12th. For Series 1, we've invited all 7 declared candidates for Oregon Republican Party Chair to appear on our program. In alphabetical order, candidates Gabriel Bueller, Jerry Cummings, Ben Edel, Joe Ray Perkins, and Angelita Sanchez have accepted, and we will be recording an episode for each of them. Candidate Richard Jolly did not respond to our invitation. The final declared candidate, Oregon Republican Party Chair Justin Huang, has agreed to be our guest for a special retrospective episode. When we sent out the invitations, every candidate was given this preface and a list of the 3 subject areas that we intend to cover today: your executive experience, Oregon culture and political history, and the role of the Oregon Republican Party going forward. None of the candidates were provided the questions we intend to ask, but we encouraged all of them to carefully review the Oregon Republican Party bylaws and platform as we intend to explore these areas with specificity. My role in this program is to act as moderator, not judge. I am not here to pick either the Republican or the Democratic Party chair. Therefore, anything which you, our viewers, might interpret as a personal opinion on my part should be disregarded. With the possible exception of my 81-year-old mom, still living in Mount Angel, who cares about my opinion anyway. Each candidate is a guest, and this is Oregon. Therefore, each guest will be treated with compassion, dignity, and respect. But these men and women are campaigning for a position of public responsibility. Therefore, my questions are designed to be neither easy nor comfortable to answer. To keep us honest, we will invite a well-respected county chair from the party we are interviewing for each series. In Series 1, the race for Oregon Republican Party Chair, we are joined by Baker County Republican Party Chair Danny Johnson, who will act as referee. He is uncommitted to any particular candidate, which is important. For Series 2, the race for Oregon Democratic Party Chair, we hope to secure an uncommitted and universally respected county chair from the Oregon Democratic Party to act as referee and ensure that every candidate is treated fairly, yet firmly. Each candidate guest will have 3 challenge flags that they can throw at any point during our discussion if they feel that they need more time to answer a question, or if they feel my questioning is unfair in any way. If a candidate wants to use his or her challenge flag, they will state their objection, and Chair Johnson in this series will rule on it. In each series, the referee's ruling will be final. In Series 1, Chair Johnson will follow up with his own questions after each of our 3 subject areas. His job is to explore areas which he believes are relevant to understanding each candidate as a potential future state party chair. Since the county chairs actually have to work alongside their state party chair, I am interested in what the county chair thinks is important. I also want to note that our referees have complete discretion to ask whatever they want, but I've reminded each of them that they are speaking for all of their fellow county chairs. If you, our audience, find this longer format discussion worthwhile, we intend to move forward with subsequent series on all of Oregon's political parties, major and minor. Each party will provide a well-respected, uncommitted county chair from their own party to help us ensure that our conversations are substantive and informative. Later this summer, we intend to branch out to address issues that Oregonians and Friends of Oregon care about: public health, education, abortion, gun rights, governmental power, the growing urban-rural divide, land use planning, and so on. As I mentioned in our pre-taped interview, our goal here is to revive that spirit of robust, peaceable public debate, which has always characterized our Oregon way. Oregonians don't find shouting persuasive, and I believe that our people are starving for substantive, grown-up conversations about matters which impact us all, because I believe in self-government, and I believe in you. A good man, former Montana Attorney General Tim Fox, once taught me why we even have politics. And I quote, "Politics exists so that we can live in peace alongside those with whom we will never agree." As a career professional soldier, I can assure you that civil wars are far easier to start than they are to stop. So let's keep talking, Oregon. Before we begin with questions and answers, we begin with section 1. Before we begin with questions and answers, though, I'd like to give you, Ms. Jo Rae Perkins, an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for Oregon Republican Party chair. Jo Rae, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel, for being here and providing this platform. I really do appreciate it. And Danny Johnson, thank you as well for being the referee. So about me and why I'm running for ORP chair. I have been involved with the Oregon Republican Party since 2009. And there's a lot of things that have been good, and there's some misses, which I'll get into in just a little bit. But about me and my background. I live in Albany with my husband, George. We are getting ready to celebrate our 47th, I think. I don't know. I'm losing track. Anniversary. Maybe it's 48. We were married in 1978. Do the math. Anyway, we have 2 adult kids, and our grandchildren range in age from 3 years old to 24 years old. I'm currently the secretary for the Oregon Republican Party. I have been the Oregon Republican U.S. Senator nominee in 2020 and also in 2022. I have been on the resolutions chair for the Oregon Republican Party. I was chair of one of the sections for our platform convention. I have co-chaired sections during the platform convention. I was Lynn County Republican Party chair. And what's interesting is I was elected vice chair in 2009. And that was my first central committee meeting that I had attended. I was an appointed PCP. And 6 weeks later, I was chair. I grew our county party from 12 people to 30 people simply by thinking outside the box. So my background or my education, I have a degree in political science with a minor in speech communication. And I also have been a financial planner, a banker, an insurance agent, a real estate agent. I've been in sales, I've been in marketing. So my background is vast. And I bring all of that life experience to the table as being chair of the Oregon Republican Party. Now, why am I running? We've had some major misses. 2024 was the first time, and I haven't done the research on this to find out when this has happened in the past, but I can tell you it's been a lot of years, where there were 3 open seats on a statewide basis: Attorney General, Secretary of State, and Treasurer. We did not win one of those, and that is unacceptable to me. I believe the Oregon Republican Party could have done a lot more than what we did do in helping those candidates. Our platform says the purpose of the Oregon Republican Party is to elect Republicans who promote the platform of the Oregon Republican Party to public office. We have not done a very good job at helping those candidates and helping them with the tools that are needed.
Jo Rae, did you grow up here or did you come to Oregon?
I was born in Portsmouth, Virginia. My father was in the Navy. My parents divorced. My mother remarried. She married another Navy man who was stationed in California. So I ended up growing up in Southern California, and moved up here when I was 19 years old.
From the outside, each party can look like a monolith, but anyone who has spent time in politics knows that political parties are comprised of constantly shifting coalitions which organize around what they believe are the most urgent issues facing the people whom they serve. How would you describe the current Oregon Republican Party coalition?
That's a very interesting question, Daniel. Fractured in some respects, in that we have not had a clearly defined mission from the state level. Most of the counties are very well organized and they have their goals. There are still some counties that need a little bit of help and some direction and guidance. And that's one of the areas that I hope to provide for our county parties, is that guidance to help them find candidates, to help train them, give them the education that they need, the tools that they need, and help them win in their elections.
From 1859 to 1985, Oregon Republicans dominated Oregon politics. Since 1986, not so much. What changed?
Since 1986, what changed?
Well, what changed between 1859 to 1985, when Oregon Republicans
Right.
were the natural majority party, and then since then, Oregon Republicans have not been.
Not been there. So I can't, Daniel, I wasn't around in 1859, so I can't answer that part of the question. And I was not politically active until about 1986 or 87. Some of the things that happened, though, there were some statewide measures where we lost ground. One of those was vote by mail, which happened in the late 80s or early 90s. Sorry. And I remember a good friend of mine, Sharon, said, it's not good for us. Republicans go to the polls, Democrats don't. And by making it vote by mail, we're going to make it a lot easier for the Democrats to vote, so it is not in our favor. The other thing that we did was we voted to make the superintendent of state an appointed position instead of an elected position, giving the power to the governor.
Now, Joe Ray, when you say superintendent of state, do you mean the superintendent of public instruction?
Yes, yes.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. And giving more authority at the state level and taking that away from the county, not the county, the local school districts. And we lost more of our power. And so I think that that's two of the main areas where we lost that. And we know that it has been very difficult for Republicans to win seats. We can win seats. We have won a lot of seats, but it makes it a bigger hill to climb with the vote by mail and the motor voter. So
what is your plan to return Oregon Republicanism to relevance?
One of the areas that we have been very poor at is messaging. We have been using social media, but not everybody's on social media. We've not been reaching out to the legacy media, and we haven't been reaching out to new media. There's a lot more that we could have been doing over these past election cycles to put the message of what the Oregon Republican Party stands for, that we are Oregonians, that we do care about everybody. We all have way more in common than we don't have in common. And we have not been putting that message out there. So what I mean by that is we all want to love and be loved. We all want to have a roof over our heads and feel safe and secure in our homes. We want to be able to have an income, a good income, and be able to put food on the table for our families. We want to feel safe and secure in our homes. We want the government to be fiscally responsible with the tax dollars that they extract from us. And we really want them to leave us alone so we can live our lives. That's an easy message that the majority of Oregonians, no matter their political affiliation, agree with.
Privately, many Oregon elected officials of all parties consider the activist base of their political party apparatuses to be dumping grounds for malcontents and out-of-touch ideologues. How has your experience equipped you to herd these cats?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So privately, when you speak privately, many, and I would dare say most Oregon elected officials of all parties consider the activist base of their political party apparatuses to be dumping grounds for malcontents and out-of-touch ideologues. How has your experience equipped you to herd these cats?
I don't know that I can answer that question.
Okay.
I'm not, I have been involved with the Tea Party. I have shown up at the state capitol building. I have spoken to legislators. I've been at the war room. And if our elected officials feel like we are malcontents, we're the ones that elected them if they're on our party. So they should be listening to their constituents and what it is that we are saying and raising our voices about.
What do you believe is possible for the Oregon Republican Party chair to accomplish, and how will we be able to measure whether your tenure is a success or a failure?
May I share my screen?
Of course.
Okay. Okay, I'm sending you the request so I can share. You have to approve it.
I will do my best, although I'm not exactly, there we go. So let me see if I can, please tell me if this gets close. Is it right here? Is that it? Or is it something different?
Can you see a chart?
I cannot, but on the other hand, you could fill the library with what I don't know about.
It says the host isn't allowing sharing for this meeting.
I am
So I think it's at the bottom. I'm not sure for the host.
Let's see. I will do this. I will make you a co-host, and hopefully that will allow you to share your screen with us. So try that. I've made you a co-host. You are screen sharing. So if you know how to push that share button down at the bottom, that might get us there.
It says you're still not allowing sharing for the meeting.
Let's see. More. Screen sharing.
Board. Captions, view. I don't want to touch anything. Meeting info.
Let's see. That is a good question. We might be using the miracle of the editing suite to. There we go. There we go. Now it should be good. And hopefully Isaac can get this sorted out for us so that I am not a single point of failure.
Okay. Can you see the chart?
I am screen sharing.
Oh, wait, hold on. Sure. It helps if I hit the share button first.
There you go. Here we go. Hold on. There we go. Now it should work. So hit your share button.
Oh no.
And if not, these are the kind of things we're supposed to rehearse ahead of time.
Yeah, I have it here.
Oh, do you see it, Danny?
Yeah, I have it.
You can see the chart.
Okay, then that must be we must be doing technologically well.
Okay, good. Ask your question again, please, Daniel.
Okay. And if we can't do this, we'll have Isaac cut this out and you'll just have to talk us through it. So question, what do you believe is possible for the Oregon Republican Party chair to accomplish, and how will we be able to measure whether your tenure is a success or failure?
The number one purpose of the Oregon Republican Party is to elect Republicans. This spreadsheet, and it's the first time that it's being shared to a mass audience. It will be sent out to our delegation this week. All those boxes in white, those are all our current committees. All the boxes in pink, those are 18 brand new committees. The majority of those committees are focused on candidates. So I'm going to go through a couple of the new committees. IT and Technology Committee. That should be rather simple, but it's to make sure that our IT infrastructure is up to date. Outreach Committee. What are we doing to reach across to our counterparts, parents' rights and education, Young Republicans of Oregon, Oregon Federation Republican Women, College Republicans, etc. That's our Outreach Committee. Election Response Committee, making sure that as these elections are taking place, And this is different than our get out the vote committee, our election response committee. That is when we have to do not ballot chasing, but ballot curing, getting signatures cured, because we've had losses by not a whole lot of votes. And we needed to have people on top of it, getting those reports from the Secretary of State's office or from their county parties, county election offices, and get the list of those people whose signatures were not matched properly, therefore their ballots were not counted. That is part of our election response committee. County support committee, how can we as the ORP support our county parties and help them to grow their parties? What tools do they need? Candidate training committee, this has started, but I think we can take it a lot deeper. Now, we're breaking this down even more. Then we have a legislative action committee, brand new committee. And one of the purposes in the ORP is to be legislatively active, knowing what is going on with those bills. We do not have a statewide legislative action committee, and that is a shock to me. This is one of the things that, as secretary, that I started doing, was getting out as much information on legislative issues as they were coming up. So we want a legislative action committee that will then be broken down to all 34, and hopefully we can get the other two counties organized to all the counties and ask them to each take these the legislative measures, that initiatives that the legislators are looking at, the bills that they're looking at, break them down so that we know when to go to action. Now let's get into the elections. The Oregon Republican Party has not done a good job at helping candidates. I know this in personal experience, having been the U.S. Senator nominee 2 times in a row. I got no real help from the Oregon Republican Party. I did get some help from some of the counties, to which I'm very grateful. The ORP at the state level, we need to be responsible for our U.S. Senate candidates and our statewide elected executive branch candidates. And I don't have on here the state ballot measures, but that's going to get added on here. That would actually fall underneath the legislative action. Our congressional districts, their number one job is to elect U.S. representatives, but I also want them looking at the judicial candidates. And let's start getting some conservative constitutionalist judges on the bench. County parties, local elections, and that is a whole lot. City council, mayoral council, special districts, appointees to commissions and advisory committees, county commissioner candidates, state senate, and house committee. But I want to back up to the one right here in the middle, appointees to commissions and advisory. Between Lynn, Benton, and Marion counties, there are 1,511 appointed positions to commissions and advisories. This is where we need to build our farm team. And we've started, but we have not been doing a very good job at it. And this is where we're going to start focusing more of our efforts so that we can start helping people get elected into office. So now we just have to figure out how to unshare this. And I'll be a happy camper.
And there's no guarantee that it actually ever got shared in the first place. But if you click on your share button, it should unshare it.
Yeah, I know. It's just that I just have a Zoom screen in front of my face. So,
and we may not have. And I'm going to ask a follow-up question to this once we get this sorted out.
Okay.
So if we and no matter which way we slice it,
there we go. Let's see here.
Do
that.
Continue.
Go here.
No, there we go.
Stop it. Adjust. Okay. Not that one.
There we go.
There we
Okay,
go.
that's
Okay,
sorted
got
out. Good. Okay, so
hopefully it was shared. I don't know if
it
it was, but Danny said he could see it.
Yep.
So
let me follow up with this with a question in response to all of the committees that you've listed, and we're going to get into a little bit more specific questions about the bylaws and the platform in our section 3.
Okay.
We're still in section 1, but since you have raised this issue up for our viewers, in what way, does the chair of the Oregon Republican Party, what is their role with respect to committees and subcommittees both permanent standing committees and ad hoc committees. And if you could explain to our viewers the difference between those two, that might be useful in helping to explain why you're focusing on this particular area.
Okay. So the chair appoints the ORP chairperson appoints the committee chairs, whether they're ad hoc committees or standing committees. Some of those committees need the approval of the executive committee. The finance chair, and I'm doing some of this in memory, the bylaws chair, I think, and I should know this, but there's a lot going on in this brain. The precinct organization chair, those are all have to be by approval of the executive committee. And I know
those are, if I understand your bylaws correctly, those are the permanent committees, and then the chair also has a role in standing up and staffing ad hoc committees as well. So if you could explain what an ad hoc committee is, no, it's different.
Ad hoc committee. So what I just listed, a lot of those would be ad hoc committees. They're not in the they're not named in the bylaws. We could have an ad hoc committee on well, we've got an education committee, but it's kind of not very well defined. Public education, how to help get the public education back into sync. So that would be an ad hoc committee to put people to action in how to approach the school boards. So that would be an ad hoc committee.
And with respect to these ad hoc committees, are these things over which the chair has exclusive control, or does the chair have to defer to the executive committee in this regard?
No, they're under the control of the chair. With input from the executive committee can certainly input and say, I don't think that's a good idea, but the chair can certainly say, this is a committee that I want, and this is why I'm proposing it to be out there. And I don't think there's anything, I'm scanning through the bylaws right now because the screen I have it on, it's not going to let me search going down here, reading through. Let's see if this is going to hot sync to what I want.
Well, I think that that answers the question that I think our viewers might have had, which is that there are standing committees, there are ad hoc committees. The standing committees are staffed through consultation with the executive committee under the Oregon Republican Party bylaws,
Yes.
And the ad hoc committees are largely in the discretion of the chair.
And they serve. I found it finally. They do serve at the pleasure of the chair, and their term of office automatically expires when a new state chair is elected.
I see. What would success and failure for you personally as the chair look like?
Success is getting more Republicans elected. Number one. I have asked this question 6 times now. What is, according to the bylaws, the number one purpose of the Oregon Republican Party? 3 of those times, the answer has been to fundraise. I can raise all the money in the world, but if I don't have candidates, it means nothing. Success is getting Republicans elected and getting more citizens involved and giving them things to do. We have a lot of precinct committee people with nothing to do. I showed that org chart to one of my friends. He goes, wow, that looks like a whole lot of stuff to do, just, busy, busy, busy. No, it's highly directed on that org chart, and it gives people a part to be involved in, and not just anybody. As chair, one of the things that I will be doing, I will also be sending out along with that org chart this week, is this is what the committees are. This is what they do. Please send your letter of interest to me immediately, and what your experience is, if any, in any of these areas, and why you want to be involved in one of these committees or more of these committees. My goal, should I be elected as ORP chair, is day one, I name the committee chairs and start naming who will be on those committees. We don't have time to wait. I'm taking the lead from President Donald John Trump. Let's get it going. We don't have time. And the executive committee is scheduled to meet the Monday after our state central committee meeting, which means that I can propose to the executive committee who I want to lead these committees that need their approval.
So you've shared with our viewers what your definition of success for you personally as a chair. What would your definition of failure as a chair, how would you define that if it were to come to pass?
Not getting more Republicans elected or appointed to positions. It's pretty simple. We have
Thank
to
you.
show measurable success, and that is by getting more people involved in running for office.
And I note, I owe you an apology because when I first introduced you, I introduced you as Ms. Jo Ray Perkins, but you are actually Secretary Jo Ray Perkins. And I've been using we spoke beforehand, and I think I've known you for a couple of years, and so please accept my apologies, Secretary Perkins. But I'm going to continue calling you Jo Ray unless you would rather be called something else.
That's fine.
Good. Well, Jo Ray, that concludes my questions for section 1, your executive experience. Now I'd like to hand the floor over to Chair Danny Johnson from Baker County to ask any questions that he wants as follow-up.
Yes, Jo Ray, thank you for appearing tonight. One of the things that I was interested in regard to your chart was at the CD level. There are many diverse issues, such as forests, natural resources, and things of that nature that are of special interest to Eastern Oregon and rural counties. And we know that we have a finite number of people that only have so much time. How would you find the number of people you need to get on these committees? Where do you search and acquire them out of the Republican Party?
So that's where my email that I'll be sending out is number 1 is going to be asking the chairs to please share this, because the entire state central committee will receive this email, but the PCPs, the precinct committee persons, will not see that email because we don't have all those email addresses. So I will ask the chairs to please share this with the members of their local county parties and see where they're interested in plugging in, keeping in mind that we also want them plugging in to the county parties, and hopefully the county parties will be able to adopt a similar organizational chart. So people are very visual, and this way they can see, oh, this is how the structure is. I'm really good at doing this. Senate Bill 765, did I remember that correctly? The one on the wildfire maps, huge issue in the rural areas, Eastern Oregon, Southern Oregon, here in the valley, up the canyon. Those wildfire maps are huge. It affects a lot of people around the state, and that's an issue that people are rallying around. And I would want the congressional districts to be able to go, hey, this is more regional versus statewide. Downtown Portland is not that concerned about the wildfire maps. Multnomah Falls is. So it's, we have that regionality. And again, that's where we want the county leadership and the congressional district leadership to work together and build up. But when we ask the precinct committee people to get involved, they're more likely to get involved. Hey, what are you interested in doing? We all know the rule, 80% of work is done by 20% of the people. I hope to get more than 20% of our precinct committee people involved. And I think by having organizational charts like this will help. And that's where we're going to find the people. And then when we bring in more people and grow the active membership, because every registered Republican in the state of Oregon is technically a part of the Republican Party. They are our members. They're just not
Thank you.
Our central committee members.
Thank you. The current structure and involvement of individuals within the ORP seems to be the 20%. And I know that there still are other groups that are committed to being separate from the ORP for their own interest levels or thought processes of doing it their way.
Mm-hmm.
How is there any way that we can find an avenue for them to merge together so that we don't have such a splintering within the Republican Party?
That's where our outreach committee comes in, finding those committees, not those committees, those other organizations, and find out what their hot points are and how can we work together. Parents' rights and education is a perfect example. What is their focus? Education. Parents having a say in the education of their children. That's a great example of partnering, in which we are partnering with parents' rights and education. And so it's bringing those affiliated organizations in. We just within the last 2 years added Oregon Federation of Republican Women and Young Republicans of Oregon and College Republicans onto our executive committee. I have been pushing for Republican women for years and the college Republicans to get onto our executive committee, and was told, no, we can't do it, we can't do it, we can't do it. Well, yeah, we could do it. All it took was a vote of the executive committee. That was it. So it's up to us to go, okay, here's these organizations. How can we partner with you? What do you need from us? And they in turn will say, what do you need from us? We need from you information. Educate us on what your focus is on this area, because guaranteed we have membership that's a hot button for them as well.
Thank you. Daniel?
Thank you very much, Chair Johnson. Now I'd like to move to section 2 of our discussion, Oregon culture and political history. Joe Ray, when did Oregon enter the Union?
Oh, goodness. Hold on just a second. I was just looking at this. 18 Civil War. It was just before the Civil War.
Yeah, and it's on our flag too. It's 1859, in fact.
Well, 1859. That's what I was thinking, but then I was going, wait, when's the Civil War? Yeah,
well, February,
we're coming up on our
14th,
birthday this Friday is Oregon's birthday.
From April 12th of 1861 to May 26th of 1865, what nationally significant event occurred? You just referenced it. From 1861 to 1865.
Oh, the Civil War.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's why I was going, wait a minute. Didn't I just say the Civil War?
We don't do gotcha journalism. Yeah. We don't ask trick questions. So in your words, what was the Civil War about?
States' rights.
Obviously, slavery was involved as well. I would assume
slavery was not the initial cause of the Civil War. It became the cause of the Civil War, but the states were fighting for their rights to run their states as they wanted. And yes, slavery was a part of that, but it became the focal point after it started.
What party was formed to abolish slavery?
The Republican Party.
And who was the Republican Party's first president?
Lincoln.
Why was Oregon's entry into the Union on the eve of the Civil War significant in your mind, if at all?
I couldn't even tell you. I don't know. I'm presuming because we were a free state.
Did abolitionism, from your perspective, did abolitionism form a key part of the Oregon Republican Party's identity when we entered the Union?
I don't know. I do know that Oregon's history, Oregon did have a very strong KKK presence. Very strong. So that much I know. I mean, Oregon had no Black people at all for a very long time. So even though they entered as a free state, they also were not a welcoming state, from what I understand. Now, again, I didn't grow up here, so I did not learn Oregon history. So some of these historical questions you're asking me, I honestly don't know. And my focus is, where are we today and where are we going to go tomorrow as a party?
Understand. In terms of where we are going to go as a state, what is the idea of Oregon to you?
Well, Oregon's motto is she flies with her own wings. Most people, I think the overall spirit of Oregon is, look, I'm going to do my own thing. We're very independent thinkers out here, or we used to be very independent thinkers. And I think we've kind of lost that with too much of the collectivism. to where we are today, where we've got the factions that are constantly battling, instead of saying, look, you've got your own views, values, beliefs, and opinions, and I have mine. But there's a lot that overlap, which I mentioned when we first started the interview. A lot of those overlap. And again, that's where we need to come back to hold on. What do we agree on? One of the problems that we've had is we talk about what we disagree on, and we cannot build unity if all we do is focus on our disagreements. But if we start the conversation first with, what do you agree on? Let's talk about that stuff first, because we're going to find out that Oregonians, no matter their political leanings or no political leanings, that we agree on way more than we disagree upon. And when we start focusing on what we agree on, what we disagree on will become so diminished that we'll be able to get work done.
Do you believe that Oregon is fully honoring the idea of Oregon these days?
No, Oregon doesn't hold up to the Constitution. It violates the Oregon Constitution on a fairly regular basis, from my point of view, and the U.S. Constitution.
And I guess we should clarify my question. I think you answered exactly what I was meant to ask, which is, do you believe that Oregon government is fully honoring the idea of Oregon? So thank you for answering, for understanding what I was trying to get at. In 2008, Nate Silver published an analysis of Oregon political affiliation, in which he found that Oregon Republicans are the most conservative Republicans in the entire country, and Oregon Democrats are the most liberal Democrats in the entire country. What implications, if any, do you believe this has for the future of Oregon?
What?
What implications, if any, do you believe this has for the future of Oregon? That we have the most conservative Republicans and the most liberal Democrats.
Well, keep Portland weird. I think they've taken that motto and streamed it as much into the state as they can, which is why we end up with, I'm just picking a percentage, 3/5 of the states wanting to exit out of Oregon. I think it's not good. I think it's very bad that people go so far. This is really hard to say this, because the left has gone so far left that when the very conservative Republicans stand their ground, we look like we are crazy people, but we're not. We're very grounded in our values. But when they ask the Republican Party, or they say you're too far to the left, move to the middle, and the Republican Party moves to the middle, the left, the Democratic Party, seems to take another step to the left. And they look back and they go, you're still too far to the right. So the Republican Party has for many years compromised, and that is to our own detriment. We need to learn to stand our ground. I believe in strong negotiation. I don't believe in compromising our core values of who we are and who Oregonians are and what they really believe in.
Do you believe Oregon is experiencing a crisis in public trust? And if so, why?
Because the legislators don't care what we think. They do what they want to do. They, especially now, again, they have the supermajority in the Oregon legislature. They've got a liberal governor, and she will sign any bill that they pass. I don't believe that she will say that she will veto one bill passed by the Democrat legislature at all. They don't care. Case in point, President Trump just issued the executive order on illegals being in the country. Oregon's been a sanctuary state since 1987. If it's not the first, it was one of the very first sanctuary states, not a city, the entire state. And Governor Kotek said that she's going to completely ignore that executive order, except for that executive order is rooted in the U.S. Constitution, which, by the way, the Oregon Constitution also states that the number one job of the government is to protect the people against invasion. We're being invaded. They don't care. They don't care. Senator Merkley just stated how their President Trump put out an executive order saying that boys cannot be in women's sports. There are women that are taller and stronger, and now they have to prove their gender. It's a miracle that young lady did not get killed during the Olympics, because the Olympics allowed a trans male to be in the ring with her. These people this is insanity. They have lost their mind for the sake of we've got to be as crazy as we can. And I think that's to the detriment of Oregon. We are losing people from this state. They're tired of the radical politics and they're leaving Oregon.
So you've given us an answer about lack of public trust and attributed a cause to it. I'd like to follow that up by asking, in what way, if any, have Oregon Republicans and the Oregon Republican Party contributed to our current crisis in public trust?
By not being loud enough. We have not, the Oregon Republican Party has not put out a consistent message, alluding back to some of the stuff that I've talked about. You're our neighbors. We talk to you on a regular basis. We say hi to you. We see you at the grocery store. We have a lot more in common than we don't have in common. Let's build that community. I talked to my next door neighbor. It used to be neighbors, but she's passed away. But we'd have great conversations. They're Democrats. And I know they are. So are their daughter, who comes over and visits her dad quite a bit. We should be able to have a civil conversation with people without them going crazy and losing their minds. But the Republican Party needs to be putting out public service announcements. We need to be sending out press releases. We need to be running ads on social media platforms. This is what the Oregon Republican Party stands for. This is what the Oregon Republican Party has done to help our neighbors. A lot of the churches have a day of service. I would love to see the Republican Party have a day of service. What can we do to help people? I deliver for a living. I went back to work, wanted somewhere I can make good money and work when I feel like working. And I delivered groceries yesterday to a family. The elderly mother broke her hip. The son broke his ankle, and the other son was living there. And when I walked in to help carry the groceries in, he said, "Don't step right there. There's no floor." My heart goes out to these people. They're doing the best they can. Why can't we put together a group of people and say, "Hey, I know some contractors. Let's get your floor fixed so you don't have to worry about tripping and falling through your floor." Churches do the day of service. Why can't we come together and maybe even invite some of the Democrats to join us? Wouldn't that be a shock?
Which former Oregon Republican Party chair over the past 25 years was your favorite, and why?
I can't go back 25 years because I haven't been involved that long. So the first chair that I served under was Bob Tiernan. And Bob Tiernan did a good job of getting messaging out there. That was one of the areas that he was very strong in, was getting regular messaging out. And so for that reason, Bob just sticks out in my mind as the best chairman since I've been involved for 13 years.
So over the last 13 years, which former Oregon Republican Party chair during the time that you've been involved with the Oregon Republican Party was your least favorite?
I will not answer. I'm not going to answer that question because I'm not going to tear down the Oregon Republican Party.
So that ends all the questions that I have prepared for Section 2, Oregon Culture and Political History. I'd like to hand the microphone over to Chair Danny Johnson from Baker County, and the floor is yours, Chair Johnson.
Thank you. Eastern Oregon and Western Oregon have very uncommon similarities. One of the things that we're concerned with out here is the loss of our access to our natural resources over legislation, rules, regulations within agencies. One of the things that we feel is so important is an education factor for the west side population of Oregon, so that we can be using these natural resources as a financial stabilizer for the Oregon budget process, as well as raising the level of jobs that are available to the rural counties, since many of them are lacking in that in good wage jobs. How would you go about orchestrating that type of a cooperation, I might say.
I have traveled while I ran for the US Senate, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I put thousands and thousands of miles on my car. The majority of that time, believe it or not, was actually on the other side of the mountain, central and eastern Oregon. A lot of time all over the place. It is absolutely gorgeous. And the natural resources that are there are absolutely amazing. In order to educate the west side, and by the way, there's a lot of natural resources on the west side. We've got the timber, just like the east side has timber. We've got farming, fishing, hunting, minerals. And there's a lot more minerals on the east side than there are on the west side. My mind says that that is more of what those people that are elected on the east side need to be doing to educate the legislators. And the big problem is that they're very tunnel vision, that maybe they need to do some tourism over to Eastern Oregon, and show them, even if they can't get over there physically, but show them with some video and some slideshows. Maybe they've done that. I don't know. But we can certainly, again, use the media. And when we use more media, we get free earned media to where we don't have to pay as much. When we do tours over there, we go, look at what could be happening over there. Now, if I remember correctly, Danny, there was a silver mine just opened up in Southeast Oregon within the last couple of years, correct? Down not too far from
I
your
believe
neck of the
so.
woods. I think outside of Malheur County, if I remember correctly. It's been a couple of years, but somewhere down there.
Grassy Mountain, is that what you're thinking of?
That might be, but I know there's a silver mine that was just recently opened up. But the processing was going across over to Idaho. So they're extracting in Oregon and taking it to Idaho. That is where our legislators need to be educated. Why are we sending these jobs? So we've got jobs in the mining side. Excellent. Why is the refinery across the border into Idaho? These are jobs that we could have here. It seems like they're very hyper focused on Silicon Hillsboro, and getting those tech jobs. And clearly, tech is a huge issue and will continue to be. Which there's tech jobs in Central Oregon, but I think that we can take those issues that are a concern of the residents in Central and Eastern Oregon and use that as some more media talking points.
Do you think that, oh, excuse me.
No, go ahead.
Do you think that food production in that, local food production in Oregon would be an accent to getting people to, on the west side, to realize the capabilities of our own citizens? If we had a cattle processing plant, say in Eastern Oregon, because we have so many ranchers out in this area, but to get their animals inspected and certified for food consumption, they have to go to Idaho, or they have to wait for inspectors to come, and it takes time and energy and travel cost for those ranchers to get their cattle produced or processed.
Mm-hmm.
So what can the ORP do to bring some of these issues out to the citizens of Oregon, so that the West Side individuals, say the Portland metro area folks, that through the churches or through some of agencies in that, they could take the beef products and that from Eastern Oregon and give people such great food products and that, to show that we are connected.
How many of those ranchers are quote unquote organic?
How many are what?
Organic. grass feeding their cattle, grass feeding, grass finishing.
A lot of them, many
Okay.
of them.
And that is huge, huge. The organic food industry is exploding in Oregon. We try to buy more organic food. I don't want meat that's been processed with chemicals. It's kind of funny because on poultry, it says no hormones or antibiotics used. Well, that's great marketing. It happens to be against the law, which 99% of the public doesn't even know that part. But our cattle are not. I used to, by the way, when I worked at Oregon State University, I worked in the Department of Animal and Rangeland Sciences. So I have some knowledge of the rangelands and the ranchers that are over in Eastern Oregon. Many of them were partners of the Animal and Rangeland Science Department at OSU. And I did hear them talking about how long it took to get the USDA out there. And I'm hopeful that, we get the right person in as ORP chair that's willing to reach out to the ag secretary to get them over to Oregon and say, look, we need our meat producers or meat processors. They need to get this done. We're leaving money on the table, and it's causing higher food prices for Oregonians because they have to import their beef and other meat products from out of state. And this would be a great help to us. So what can you do? And while they're doing all the cost cutting, I'm looking so forward to that. I have a strong suspicion that in that cost cutting, they're going to be able to maybe come up with some more inspectors and cut the red tape at the same time. So I think that, again, that's where people that are willing to have the voice, and clearly I'm willing to have the voice. I will talk to anybody. I've done it. And again, out of the 7 of us running, I'm the only one that has run in a statewide seat 3 times. I'm the only one that has traveled the state extensively in talking to the local people. I stopped one time on my way to a meeting, which I was very late for, on my way to Lakeview to a meeting, stopped in Silver Lake to get something to drink, was talking to a lady in the store. She said, that guy out there on the phone, go talk to him. I spent an hour talking to a rancher as he was telling me about the spotted frog and how the environmentalists were keeping him from being able to ranch in his 100-year acreage that his family owned for over 100 years. And he told me about all that stuff. And I wrote it down. And I was way late to my meeting in Lakeview. Well, it was worth it and I'm not one for being late like that. But when I had the chance to talk to somebody with real life experience of what he was dealing with all the environmentalists, hearing those voices, being willing to take those beyond our state. And that's one of the things that the chair for the Oregon Republican Party, every county chair becomes a member of the Republican National Committee. And it's at the Republican National Committee level that we get to have a voice. And who do I talk to? You know people that know people. Who do I get in contact with to talk to them about these issues that we're having over here in Oregon? The food is so much better when it's naturally raised and processed, and we have a healthier population. And when we have a healthier population, we have a more productive and happy population.
Thank you. Daniel?
Thank you, Chair Johnson. So now we move to Section 3, the Oregon Republican Party going forward. So, Joe Ray, what is the role of the Oregon Republican Party to you?
Outside of everything I've already said?
Yeah, I think you've already addressed that, but as we
I've pretty much addressed it.
Yep.
Getting Republicans elected. I'm going to read. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
I had it, but then I moved it down as I was looking. There we go. Article 1. Just have to get back to the page. Straight out of our bylaws. To elect Republicans who promote the platform of the Oregon Republican Party to public office. Grow the Republican Party, which we've done through voter registration and a volunteer force. And I'm going to come back to that voter registration. Again, to make us the #1 party, national party in Oregon. We need to grow. We need to be able to set public policy, and we need to help our committee, our county parties grow. But I want to go back to this voter registration. When motor voters started, I remember this coming up at a state central committee, and I walked up to the mic and I said, look, they're going to be registered automatically as non-affiliated voters. I suggest that every county contact their election clerk once a month and ask them for the list of all the people who were just registered by the DMV underneath the motor voter law. Send a letter to all those people, outline what we stand for, outline what the Democrat Party stands for. Ask them to, and explain to them that when they get their ballot, their primary ballot is going to be practically blank. And we encourage them to pick a party, whether it's the Democrat Party or the Republican Party. But if they align with us, we encourage them to join the Republican Party and send them the voter registration card. Out of 34 organized county parties, not one took me up on that. Not one. I was a delegate. I couldn't tell my chair what to do. All I could do was put it out there. But it's those that's thinking outside the box. That's one of the things that we can do to help grow our party. And we can start doing that now by looking at our data. Which of those non-affiliate voters vote 3 and 4 times out of the last 4 elections, and which ones of those lean Republican? They're the ones that we need to be reaching out to and ask them if they will join our party.
Thank you. Please make the best argument you are capable of making about why Oregon needs a Democratic Party.
We already know what it's like to have the uniparty. We've seen it alive and in action out of Washington, D.C., unfortunately. But I think it's good to have counterparts. I think we sometimes, iron sharpens iron. And if we are not becoming such ideologues that we cannot see the other person's point of view, then we are not of very much use. The founders really did not like the parties. They really only wanted a one-party system. The Bible says that there's, you can't be neither hot nor cold. You can't be lukewarm. We all have an opinion. But if the Democrat Party is going to stand for what Democrats, I don't even want to say if they originally stood for, because they were the party of the KKK. They did not vote in favor of civil rights. So why do we need a Democratic Party? Because this is America and they have the right to have one.
Oregon Democrats currently enjoy a political monopoly in Oregon. Why?
Because the population centers Portland, Eugene, Ashland, Bend, Albany, the core city of Albany where I live, the core of Marion County, which in 2022 went red. I didn't look to see what they did this year. That's where the population is. And for some reason, most of those people tend to lean Democrat. I can't answer the question why they do. I don't understand it. What was your question again?
So it was that why do they enjoy a monopoly?
Somehow they've hoodwinked people is really my opinion. We'll give you what you want, and you won't have to pay for it. Forget the fact that we pay some of the highest taxes in the country, but we'll give you free buses, we'll give you free food, we'll give you free medical. Your girls can be boys, your boys can be girls. And by the way, we're going to make sure that they all get to graduate from high school. Forget the fact that they can read or cannot read, or do math, or hold down a job, or have any gumption. Forget all that. They're going to be happy, and we're going to take care of them. And people forget about hard work and what it really takes. But I think that's changing finally to where people are waking up when they see the waste, fraud, and abuse that the Democrat Party has been doing, and they're screaming about it loud and clear in Washington, D.C. I am hopeful for Oregon. Pennsylvania went red. That's where my family's from. Strong Union state, and they went red. I have hope for Oregon that when people see more values or their values and not these crazy values that I just mentioned, they're going to go, that's not the party I'm interested in. I want the party that really cares about my family and its growth and being able to provide for my family in the future, so they don't move out of state and go somewhere else where jobs are plentiful.
In your opinion, did the 2016 and 2024 election cycles at the federal level represent realignment elections?
Absolutely.
And since you answered yes, what implication does that national realignment have for Oregon Republicans?
Hopefully those Oregon Republicans are going to get more on board with what President Trump has laid out and is doing, and that they will finally stand up and be heard and not give in. I have visited the legislature on a few occasions. I remember one such occasion, I won't say the rep's name. I was there at the war room, and this rep came in and said, "Oh, well, we just voted to blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, because the Democrats said that they would give us this." And I said, "So let me get this straight. You just compromised your core values in order for a future promise that they're not going to keep." And this legislator looked at me like, "Oh," and guess what? They didn't keep the promise. I don't remember what it was, but I can tell you who the legislator was, but I will not reveal the person's name. But their response was, "Oh, I can't believe I fell for that." But they do this time and time and time again. Christine Drazen did it with Tina Kotek with redistricting. "We'll give you this if you'll give us that." The Republicans gave them what the Democrats asked for. Tina Kotek said, "Sorry, I'm not going to let you have a seat at the table for redistricting. Doesn't matter that I promised it to you." The Republican Party constantly makes a deal with the devil, and they need to stop. They need to stand their ground and say, no. The problem we have right now, they have the supermajority. We can say no till the cows come home. It won't matter. And we're going to pay for it here in Oregon. And that's where a strong Oregon Republican Party chair standing up strong for the values of Oregonians and getting that messaging out is going to help us grow. We're going to have to eat it for the next 2 years. But hopefully, as my term ends, my first term, we will be able to take back the seats that we lost and gain some with a new vision and a new focus.
We're now going to proceed to some questions about the bylaws and platform of the party you aspire to lead. As I noted to our audience, you were informed before this appearance that you should review the Oregon Republican Party bylaws and platforms, although we did not give you a tremendous amount of advance notice about that. We didn't want you to prepare to crib too hard. But those platform and that bylaws are supposed to be the clearest expression of the priorities of your party. Mm-hmm. So what do the Oregon Republican Party bylaws say the Oregon Republican Party chair's job is?
It's pretty skinny what it says the job of the chair is. Just a second here.
And as we talked about before when we were getting ready, this is an open book test, and so you should be free. You're free to consult with the bylaws or the platform if you want to use them to answer your question.
And I am doing that, but unfortunately, I have to scroll down farther than I want to. I have a friend who has this thing memorized. He go, "Oh, it's in section such and such. Thank you." Okay. Vacancies. Well, the chair runs the party. The chair has general charge of the state central committee and the executive committee. They call the meetings. If the chair chooses to employ somebody, they can employ that person with the approval of the Oregon Republican Party Executive Committee. That employment contract, however, cannot last beyond the chair's term. They also appoint the standing committee chairs. And the standing committee chairs appointed with advice and consent can be removed by the chairman at any time. And then they appoint the ad hoc committees. They report to the central committee what they've been doing. If there's an employee, they negotiate their benefits. They are also the This has to do with filing with the Secretary of State what our party's principles are and our elections on a statewide basis, and opposing the principles and candidates of other political parties or organizations on a statewide basis. So that is what part of what the chair does. And there's something specific I am looking for. Second here, let me go back up here because I can find it faster this way. Because it is important. Here we go. That's what I want, that page. Okay. That's what I just read. It's so funny. And we have to, of course, abide by the bylaws. What it doesn't say, and which is really interesting, it doesn't say that the number one job of the Oregon Republican Party chair is to raise money. And a lot of people think that is what the bylaws say. It doesn't say that, but yes, the chair needs to raise money because we need to have money to operate. But it's interesting. And for those people that want to know where that's at in our bylaws, it's in Article 8 of the ORP bylaws.
By whom is the chair elected?
By the delegation of the Oregon Republican Party, the State Central Committee, delegates from each of the county parties that are organized. Currently, we have 34 organized county parties.
Yeah. How many members sit on the executive committee of the Oregon Republican Party, and how are they selected?
Oh, okay. We have, hold on. That's six. 6 times 6 is 36. So that's 42 plus 2, who right now are the two of the same people. So that's 44. We have 44, 45, 46 current voting members of the executive committee. And then all of the committee chairs are non-voting members, except for the finance chair and the PCP chair. They have a vote, so they're in that count. We also, part of that count is a representative from the state legislature and the state representative. We do not have anybody at the federal, well, we do. They haven't sent us anybody. They would also have a vote at the executive committee level, but not a vote for officers.
How are the members of the state central? So just to clarify, I'd asked you previously how the officers and particularly the chair is elected, and you referred to the body that does that. Is that known as the state central committee?
Yes.
Okay. And how are the members of the state central committee selected?
Each county has a shoot, I don't have it pulled up. It's on my other computer. Yes, it is. There we go. See, I only work with a whole bunch of different computers, like 3 or 4 at one time. Depends on what I have in front of me. So each of the counties gets a certain number of delegates based upon their population. Every county gets at least 2 delegates, a chair and a vice chair. And then they get, and then they also have an alternate delegate. So every county has at least 2 alternate delegates. And then every county has a secretary and treasurer. So the minimum members that a party can have to the state central committee is 6. That's their minimum. And then depending on the population of registered Republicans in their county, they get 1 additional delegate for every 15,000 registered Republicans as of a certain date, which is as of the date of the general election. Then they get 1 for every 15,000 registered Republicans. But if they have 7,501 registered Republicans, because it's a tiny county, they get 1 delegate. And so those are the members. They are voted on by their central committee. And then they come to the state central committee. Those that can vote are the chair, the vice chair, and delegates. Alternates, secretary and treasurer, also alternates. They are seated if they do not have a primary chair, vice chair, or delegate in attendance.
Now, with respect to the county leaders, like for instance, Chair Johnson out in Baker County, by whom are the county leaders selected?
They are selected by their precinct committee people that are elected in the May primary of an even year. And they have to be elected precinct committee people. Those that are appointed may not vote at the organizational meeting of the county parties, which is held in November, no later than the 27th of the month, between, I believe, the 5th and the 27th of the month. It's the day after the general election.
Now, you mentioned earlier that every registered Republican in the state of Oregon is a member of the Oregon Republican Party, obviously. And so how do the precinct committee persons and the members of the Oregon, and just the general rank and file members of the Oregon Republican Party, how are they related?
The PCPs and the popular and the registered Republicans every day. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, is that what you're asking me?
Well, the question is you'd mentioned that the precinct committee persons are elected, and I guess the question is by whom are they elected?
They are elected by other Republicans, including themselves. that live within their precinct, and they have to have at least 3 votes.
And obviously, for some of our younger viewers, precinct might be a bit of a difficult concept to wrap their heads around.
It's a geographic area.
Yes, and did that reflect that? Share with our viewers what precincts used to be, even if they're not that way anymore.
Precincts used to be about 250 people. Now they're 10 times the size in some of the counties. Lynn County is one of them. They've reduced the number of precincts and increased our size, thereby making it a little bit more of a challenge for us to be able to reach our constituents that we're supposed to be talking to. And we need PCPs, and people can be appointed. So after our organizational meetings, you can be an appointed PCP. And as a PCP, you then have all the rights and privileges of all the other precinct committee people to vote for. If there's a change in officers at your county party, you can vote for them. If there's bylaws changes, you get to vote for that. The only time that appointed PCPs may not vote is during the organizational meeting if they were appointed PCPs after the May election.
Now, I'd like to ask you some questions about the Oregon Republican Party platform. So first question is, why does the Oregon Republican Party have a platform?
Because it lays out what we stand for and what we believe in, and what we are hopeful that the candidates that run will agree with our platform.
At 18 single-space pages and 6,335 words, do you think the Oregon Republican Party platform should be expanded, contracted, or left exactly the same?
I think it could be changed. There's a lot of people that want to see it shortened, and I'm not one of those people, because I believe that we need to make sure, not that we are verbose and use a lot of word salad, but we want to make sure that what is in our platform, that we say exactly what it is that we mean, so that it's not left open to interpretation by future bodies.
Section 11 of the Oregon Republican Party platform is titled Individual Liberty and Limited Government. And section 11.3 states, and I quote, "We advocate limiting the scope and jurisdiction of the federal and state government, addressing abuses in commerce and the general welfare clauses," close quote. However, section 9, healthcare, contains section 9.4, which states, quote, "We are pro-life, therefore we support the sanctity of life from conception and natural death, and are opposed to abortion and physician-assisted suicide. We promote pursuing full disclosure of all known risks and complications of abortion, surgically and chemically, and the organ harvesting and eugenic practices of the abortion industry," close quote. Do you see any tension between those two sections?
No.
In 2018, Oregonians voted on Measure 106 concerning public funding of abortions. By 2-1, Oregonians rejected Section 9.4 of the Oregon Republican Party platform. Do political parties that embrace unpopular policies tend to do well electorally?
It depends on the population. When that measure failed, we were outspent 8-1 by out-of-state dollars. So 8 times the money came into Oregon than what we were able to raise for that ballot measure. And like I said, they had 8 times the money that we had to be able to keep that bill from being defeated. Amazingly, most people that are pro-abortion are anti the government paying for them. There's a lot of people who say, look, if you want to get an abortion, that's great, pay for it, even though they are pro-abortion themselves. And that was evident in getting, because there's a lot of Democrats that signed that petition. I should say petitions, because it took a couple of cycles to get enough signatures to get it on the ballot to change the Oregon Constitution. I was actually one of the people getting signatures on the petitions. So it's really interesting. Like I said, there was a lot of Democrats that actually signed that petition because they didn't want their tax dollars paying for it, even though they didn't, it was up to the person if they wanted to abort that baby or not.
Numerous Republican statewide candidates since 1990 have been anti-abortion, like Monica Webby in 2008, Newt Bueller in 2014, 2018, and 2020.
Whoa, back up. What do you mean by anti-abortion?
So they have declared themselves as pro-choice as opposed to pro-life.
Monica Webby never declared herself pro-choice. Monica Webby said, and I quote, I have never once counseled one of my patients to abort their child because I knew that I could save the child's life in the womb. I know this because I ran against Monica Webby for the primary election in 2014, and we became friends.
Okay.
And we did discuss. So Newt Bueller was pro-choice. It still is.
Yes. So you're saying that Monica, your understanding is Monica Webby was not pro-choice.
Correct. She did not come out right out and say that she was pro-life. She was counseled to not do that.
Okay. So Newt Bueller in 2014, 2018, and 2020, and U.S. Representative Lori Chavez-DeRemer in 2022 and 2024. So my question for you is, are pro-choice Republicans welcome in the Oregon Republican Party?
Our bylaws state that our goal is to get people elected that stand by our platform. We have a challenge in that we also have people that go, well, we have to compromise if we want to win elections. Personally, I disagree. We have to, which I've alluded to before. The Democrats look at the Republicans, you're too far right, come to the middle. And the Republicans for years have been compromising their values instead of standing firm on what they believe in. Amazingly, the Democrats respect that. Even if they don't agree with it, there's a high level of respect for candidates, for people who will stand strong on their core values because they know that person is trustworthy and that they will do what they said that they're going to do. But people that waver back and forth, they don't have much respect. And that's part of the reason that we don't win, because we blow with every draft of the wind that comes along. And we need people that are going to stand up and go, yeah. We want people that are going to agree with our platform. Are they going to agree 100% of it 100% of the time? No. Our Constitution says that we are guaranteed life. That's number one in the U.S. Constitution, life. And we need to stop compromising on that. Every life is precious. And yeah, I get very adamant about it because every life is precious. And biblically, the Bible says, I knew you in your mother's womb before you were. And scientifically, there's proof that life begins at conception. They've already proven that. So we just need candidates that are willing to stand strong on what they believe in. And we need to stop compromising just so we can, because we end up, we don't win when we compromise. We lose too many times.
Given the electoral math, does the Oregon Republican Party's position make political sense?
How do you mean?
So given you're free to reject the premise, and I think you did previously about Measure 106, and you said that because the proponents for passage of Measure 106 were outspent 8-1, I believe you said, that perhaps you dispute the premise of the question, but given the fact that Measure 106 did pass by 2-1, that seems to indicate the last expression of Oregon voters concerning their feelings about abortion. So if that is the case, then does the Oregon Republican Party's position on abortion make political sense?
Yes, absolutely it does. Because it actually failed, it didn't pass, because the pass was that we ended taxpayer funding of abortion. That was the pass. The no vote was that, no, we don't want to end taxpayer funding of abortion on that measure. When Dennis Richardson ran for governor, he lost by approximately 70,000 votes. And according to historical data, there were not enough people, sorry, Danny, on the east side that did not vote. We have too many Republicans that are not exercising their right to vote. And that is where the Oregon Republican Party needs to stand strong. And again, get that messaging out there. Your vote counts. Your vote matters. Don't worry about if you think that it's not being counted. Your ballot is being counted. If your signature passes, your ballot is being counted. But we need you to vote, and we can't take it back. We can't turn the state around if people are not voting. And the Oregon Republican Party, that's part of the messaging, and we have not put that messaging out there. And we need to put that messaging out there. Every vote matters. And if you don't vote, you essentially just gave 2 votes to the opposition.
Some derivation of the word transparency appears 5 times in the Oregon Republican Party platform, including the following statement in Section 15, government integrity. Quote, the Oregon Republican Party believes in limited, responsible, and transparent government at all levels is essential, close quote. In light of the priority which the Oregon Republican Party platform places on transparency, would you support broadcasting Oregon Republican Party meetings as chair?
We voted, depends on how you mean broadcasting. So in June of 2023, we had a meeting in Madras, and it came up for a vote to no longer provide our meetings electronically.
And I don't mean narrowcast. I don't mean that people could dial in. I mean, would you support
No.
broadcasting to all Oregonians any meetings of the Oregon Republican Party?
No, it's family business. And if people want to attend, they can become a PCP or be a guest of a delegate and attend. And that is allowed based on our space capacity for the venue. But no, we conduct family business sometimes, and it doesn't need to be broadcast out there. That's internal family business. That is different than an elected person being transparent. My gosh, take a look at how heads are popping because of Doge. They're coming unglued with what is going on out there and all the billions of dollars that are being wasted. $20 million to Iran for Sesame Street. Give me a break. That's taxpayer money. That's my money, your money, their money. But a lot of our stuff that we do in our state central committee meetings, it's internal family business, and it shouldn't be broadcast. Because sometimes we have arguments, we have disagreements. We need to be able to settle those privately within our own meeting, within our own organization. The Oregon Republican Party is the state central committee is a private organization, is not a public organization, and we're not subject to public meeting law.
Many Oregon Republicans have leaned pretty heavily into allegations of electoral fraud to explain going 1 in 33 in statewide elections from 1990 to 2020, I believe it is. And we've gone, or I should say, the Oregon Republicans have gone 0 and 7, I believe, since 2020. Section 2 of the Oregon Republican Party platform is on election integrity, and it has 17 subsections. In your own words, why is election integrity important?
Because if the voters do not feel secure about, feel that our voting system is secure, they do not have confidence in it. That's why there's so many people that are not voting, because they have lost confidence that even if they vote, it's not going to be properly counted. I don't have the ORS in front of my brain right now, but there's actually an Oregon revised statute that says that each county clerk has the right to count ballots by either a counting board or a tally machine. That is Oregon revised statute. I am a huge proponent of bringing back the counting boards and let people count them. That way there is no question if the machine is being manipulated. Because when you have a counting board, oftentimes those ballots are triple checked. Unfortunately, former Secretary of State put out an administrative rule telling every county clerk that they had to use a tally machine. That is against Oregon revised statute, and an administrative rule cannot override an ORS. If we could get back to counting boards, I think that the confidence that the voters would have would increase.
Section 2.1 of the Oregon Republican Party platform begins with the following, quote, we support the elimination of mail-in voting and computerized tabulation of votes, as you just mentioned. Mm-hmm. Given the fact that vote by mail was voted in by Oregon voters via ballot measure 60 in 1998 by a margin of 69.4% to 30.6%, what is your plan to repeal it?
Right now, there is somebody that has a ballot initiative to change the Oregon Constitution to end vote by mail. I don't know that it's going to pass. I think that there's other things that we need to do, starting at the county level, because as I just mentioned, Oregon revised statute states that every county has the right to count the ballots by a tally machine or a counting board. And I would like people, which actually one person did try to get it on the ballot in Douglas County, and their county clerk kept telling them, oh, nope, that wording is wrong, until he said, oh, now you can't do that because the Secretary of State said you must use a tally machine. Therefore, I won't even accept this petition. I want every county to get a petition on their county ballot ballot, that the ballots are to be counted by a counting board as per the Oregon revised statute. And that's where we start with that. Then we can start attacking the vote by mail. But the other problem that we have is the Secretary of State is also violating federal law and not properly cleaning the ballots. The other problem that we have, and I don't know what ERIC stands for, I don't remember the complete acronym, but we belong to a clearinghouse called ERIC. and that's where there's a lot of questionable things that may or may not be happening. We need to disconnect from the ERIC system because all of our information is being sent to the ERIC system, which is the election registration information center, something like that.
Now, given the allegations that you and others have leveled about election integrity, why has no one been able to prove, to my knowledge, why has no one been able to prove electoral fraud in Oregon in a court of law, either at the federal level or at the state level?
Oftentimes, they say that the plaintiff does not have standing or that there's not enough information. In 2020, when I ran for the U.S. Senate, I was running a spreadsheet on the results every day for several days. And after several days, I was kind of tired. So I stopped for a couple of days and I went, wait a minute, I don't have to do all that by hand. It's this PDF. I can convert it to an Excel spreadsheet in about 30 seconds and add it in. So I went back after just a couple of days, got the numbers caught up, and all of a sudden I lost votes. Now, I'm not the only one that lost votes. Everybody on that Senate race lost votes. And this was against Jeff Merkley in 2020. So I questioned, how did we lose votes? The next day we got some votes back, but not as many as we lost. I immediately sent an email to the Oregon Secretary of State and said, how did we lose votes? And the response was, that's what we got from the county parties. I then sent a letter to all 36 county parties. And I said, as secretary, as candidate for U.S. Senate, I'm asking for you to provide for me the numbers for the U.S. Senate race only. I don't care about the other races. I want to know what numbers for each of the candidates that you gave to the Secretary of State. I want the date and the time that you sent it to them. The majority of the counties refused to give it to me, stating I did not have standing. I'm sorry, I was the nominee. I had absolute standing in that, and they refused to give it to me. Deschutes County wanted to charge me and triple charge me, and I finally said, fine, what's it going to cost to write the check? They never got back to me because they didn't want to disclose what the information was. And by the way, the two congressional districts that happened in was CD1 and CD4. Yeah, stuff happened. How do votes vanish? I don't know. So did things happen? Yeah, I have questions. But when the courts of law say you don't have enough standing, you don't have enough evidence, we don't believe you, and never hear it, of course we can't win. But there apparently might be some cases that may be going forward. We still have yet to see.
And just to clarify for our viewers, you'd said that you reached out to the county parties. I'm assuming you mean that you reached
I'm
out
the county
to
clerks. County clerks. Thank you. Yeah.
Understood. Is it possible that unpopular policies might have played a role in Oregon Republicans' 40-year losing streak?
Such as?
The policies the Oregon Republican Party has adopted.
I don't know what they've been over the last 40 years, so I can't answer that question.
Is it possible that shouting voter fraud as a catch-all explanation for Oregon Republican Party statewide underperformance might actually be contributing to Oregon Republican Party electoral underperformance?
No, I think it's more contributing to disenfranchised voters. I think we made a misstep, not knowing, not realizing that we wouldn't be able to have our voice heard properly and not be maligned by a corrupt media who twisted our very words of what we said and tried to make us look like loony bins. So this last year I said, look, we need to change the messaging. Again, messaging. Your vote doesn't matter. Your vote doesn't matter, isn't going to get counted if you don't vote. Your vote does matter. We need you to vote, because when we get enough people to vote again, they have to count their votes. The Democrat Party knows you're not going to vote because they have the same data that I have. I can pull up right now in GOP Data Center. Daniel, I can look you up and see how many times you voted going back to about 2016 or 2014. I can pull it up like that on any registered voter in Oregon. and see how often they vote. If I have it, they have it. And if my neighbor down the street, my next door neighbor, she doesn't vote because she's a Jehovah's Witness, but she's a registered voter. Because the state of Oregon a couple years ago reactivated every registered voter in the state of Oregon. So my next door neighbor got a ballot that she didn't even want because as a Jehovah's Witness, she doesn't vote. I can pull her up and see how often she's voted. And I know that she doesn't vote. But let's say that her faith said, hey, we need to start voting again, she would vote. But the Democrats are counting on her not voting. That's why we need people that haven't been voting to vote. And that's part of the messaging that I want to get out. We have to do that. But again, the Republican Party has been afraid to be bold. And I'm tired of having chairs that are not bold. Clearly, I'm a bold person. I ran for the U.S. Senate, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and was fortunate to be the nominee. I don't have a problem speaking up and speaking out for the people that feel they have no voice.
The last question about election integrity: what risk, if any, do you see if the leader of Oregon Republicans claims that 40 or 45% of Oregon voters have been denied the civil right of voting for the candidate of their choice?
I'm not sure that I understand that question, and I don't know where that even came from. So that's why I don't understand that question. I don't know where that number came from. I don't know what the source is.
Oregon Republicans are usually polling between 40 to 45% on statewide races. And so
what do you mean we're polling 40 to 45%? We're voting more than that.
No, the vote share between the Democratic candidate and the Republican candidate over the last 40 years or so has averaged between 40 and 45% vote share. The Democratic candidate has averaged between 60%, 55% and 60% with some exceptions.
Thank you.
The question is, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. The Democrat machine, they have a lot of free to them union people that are being paid by the unions to go out and work on behalf of the Democrat Party. We don't have that machine. Again, goes back to messaging what I just said. We have to get the message out. We need to explain to people which are get out the vote is starting to work, but we need to get that voice out there louder. Go ahead.
I understand. And my question is that, do you see any risk in communicating to Oregonians, some Oregonians who don't support the Democratic Party? Do you see any risk in communicating to them that they are being denied their civil right of voting for the candidate of their choice?
I guess I don't understand how they would be denied their civil right if they don't vote for their.
So if they're being told, there are Republicans in Oregon who are saying that people are being systematically disenfranchised. And my question to you is, do you see any risk in communicating to Oregonians that there are some Oregonian voters who are being systematically disenfranchised?
Oh, absolutely. Which goes back to what I said. We know that there is some strange stuff going on. How did I lose votes? How did votes vanish after they've been reported? That's a question that was never answered to me by 36 counties. Polk County sent me, I'll get there. Polk County, I'm doing the weave. Polk County sent me a flash drive, which I passed on to someone else. They said it was the cast vote record. Lynn County gave me the numbers that I asked for. A couple other counties might have given me what I asked for. There was a question mark in 2020. And had it not happened to me, and had I not been tracking the votes every day for over a week, except for those 2 days that I didn't, I could not sit here and state that. Having said that, people still need to vote. And we need to say, look, again, they have the data. They're counting on you to not vote. We need you to vote. President Trump said it best, too big to rig. We need you to vote. Your vote matters. You have a God-given constitutional right in this country to vote. A thing that you are given as a U.S. citizen to be able to vote. People in other countries die to be able to vote. And when they win that right to vote and they get their thumbprint inked that they voted, they come out of that voting booth, big smiles on their face, even though they know in their countries, because those countries are so corrupt, that their vote probably wasn't properly counted. But by golly, they finally won the right to vote. We need to honor those people that fought for this country. And those are some of the messages that we need to put back out there. Please exercise your right to vote. Please, and stop giving in to them and going, well, my vote isn't going to count. What they want you to do is believe that is so corrupt that your vote isn't going to count anyway. Therefore, you're not going to vote. They just won. They didn't even have to swing the bat.
And just to close this circle and hopefully to more clearly articulate my question. So you are telling Oregon voters that there are some Oregon voters in 2020 who your vote total went down. That implies very strongly that some voters' votes were not counted. As you said, there is
No, it implies that there was something strange that happened and I never got an answer to it. Was it a computer glitch? Were those ballots actually counted? I can't answer that because the majority of the counties refused to provide the information that I asked for. That's what that implies. Something strange happened. I could never get an answer for it. That does not say that it was nefarious. It just says that there's a question mark that they refused to answer. And I don't know why they refused to provide that information to answer the question, how did these votes vanish? How did this happen? I want data so that I can prove that it was, because my goal was to prove that there was nothing nefarious, which is what I put in my letter to all the county clerks. Look, I want to prove that nothing strange happened. That's why I need this information, because I did indeed lose votes. So did Jeff Merkley. It wasn't just Joe Ray Perkins. It was all the candidates running. And we got back some votes, but we didn't get back as many as we lost. And the Democrats happened to get back more than what we got as a percentage. So there's questions that we never got answered. But even though there's questions, that doesn't mean we stop voting. That means we vote all the more and say, look, I'm not going to be silenced. Our voters need to vote. They need to stop allowing through fear to be silenced. That's a tactic that is used, and they use it, and we fell for it.
After the 2020 election, the Oregon Republican Party passed a resolution denouncing the incident, whatever that incident was that occurred on January 6th, as a, quote, false flag operation, close quote. Were you part of the Oregon Republican Party leadership that voted on that resolution at that time in 2020?
No.
Do you agree or disagree with the resolution that was passed?
I'm not quite sure what they meant by it was a false flag incident. That's the part that I'm not quite sure, because 2020, the odds are that January of 2020 was Jan 6th.
January 2021.
Yeah, 2021. The meeting would have been the organizational meeting in February of 2021. And I was not a delegate in 2021, I don't believe. I'm pretty sure I was not. A false flag. Because I don't know the context of how they meant that it was a false flag incident. I don't know that I can agree or disagree with it. I would have to have heard the whole thing of why they said it was a false flag and what did they really mean by that.
Fair enough. President Trump recently issued pardons and commutations to several Oregonians who were involved in whatever incident happened on January 6th. There were 8 Oregonians, and then a 9th person who had lived in Oregon previously but no longer lives here in Oregon, including 2 citizens that were reported as being from Umatilla County, but Chair Johnson clarified to me that they're 2 brothers and they actually live in Baker County. Given that the Oregon Republican Party doesn't have a lot of say in who gets pardoned, and specifically the chair of the Oregon Republican Party doesn't have any say in how the president or the governor of a particular state gets or doesn't get pardons, I'd like to ask you, as a candidate for Oregon Republican Party chair, do you disagree or agree with the president's pardons?
I was there January 6th. I had a visit from the FBI in this very office that I'm sitting in. They want to know why I was there. What was I doing when I got there? Who was I with? What did I do? Where did I go? What was my point? What was my plan? Last I checked, this is America. And according to the Constitution, the First Amendment, I have the right to redress my government for my grievances. I disagree with violence. There were plants that were there. We found that out after the fact. We knew something strange was going on. There were people that were dressed up as Trump supporters, but indeed they were not. We do know that the FBI had an untold number of agents that were in the crowd to instigate. I do know that the Capitol Police were shooting flashbang grenades into the crowd. I do know they were shooting pepper spray into the crowd. Remember, I was there. President Trump had all of those files reviewed. He pardoned them, and that is his prerogative as President of the United States. The vast majority of them did not belong in jail. There was violence that happened. Some of those people were trapped. Some of them were goaded into violence. I don't condone the violence at all, but President Trump pardoned over 1,500 people countrywide. The conditions that they were kept in was horrible conditions. They got worse sentences than a lot of major offenders that truly committed crimes. I respect President Trump's right to pardon whom he pardoned. That is his right to do that. And I do believe that the vast majority of them should have been pardoned. Those that did absolutely physically assault police officers was the time that they spent in jail excessive of what they would have in any other circumstance? I don't know that answer, but I'm thankful that he did pardon them. I'm very thankful that he did, because the majority of them should have never been in jail. But by the grace of God, I was not arrested. I am very fortunate that I was not arrested. And it's not fun when you are sitting in your office. In fact, I was sitting in this very desk on a meeting, an online meeting, when I heard at my front door, and I went, "That's not a friendly knock." Do you know what it's like to have the FBI come to your home and quiz you? And they're threatening your constitutional rights. Thank God that I recorded the conversation, which they knew I was, because I asked them straight up. And because I did have a media press pass, it's probably what saved my bacon. And I did not go inside the Capitol building. I wasn't that dumb. But there's a lot of people, they got sucked into the Capitol building. I have video of people going in like a vortex. Oh, we can go inside now. Those doors were opened from the inside. It was a setup. So yeah, they should have been pardoned.
You noted earlier that the Oregon Republican Party chair also sits on the Republican National Committee, along with the National Committeeman and National Committee woman of the Oregon Republican Party and of every state party. Mr. Trump, so these questions, I'm going to ask you a series of questions about our current president. Mr. Trump seems about as popular in Oregon as Mr. Biden is popular in Idaho. What does Mr. Trump's approach to governance resonate in Oregon?
Absolutely. Most Oregonians that I know love him. I remember I do deliveries. I did astonishingly see after Biden dropped out, I didn't see any signs, but I did see a lot of Harris signs. But the Democrat Party in the areas in which I do a lot of my traveling within the core town, a lot of Democrats. Once I got outside of the core, Trump signs, they're still up today. Trump flags are still up today. Where I drove today, there's still a lot of Trump flags up. So yeah, he resonates big time.
In what way?
Because people sense a change. Even before the inauguration, I was at the grocery store. I marked, and I do shopping for people, but I rarely shop for myself. So when I'm shopping for myself, I'm not hyper focused, so I can be relaxed and kind of observe people more. And I noticed a relaxed mood, that people were smiling. They haven't smiled in years. It took several years after the stupid COVID thing for people to even look you in the face. They didn't want to look at anybody. But I noticed that after the election, that people seemed to relax, that this heavy weight seemed to drop off of people. And there's a lot more people smiling and saying hello again. I haven't seen that in years. To see that again, I'm tearing up, because it is so amazing to see. And I get to experience that in what I do on an almost daily basis. And people feel hope again. And this exposure that's going on by Elon Musk and his team of geniuses when I ran for U.S. Senate, that was one of the things I ran on, is getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. And that's going to trickle right down into Oregon, because it's going to start exposing. People are going to start asking, what are they doing with our money in Salem? The state is broke. They're spending more money than they're bringing in.
When your political party, I'm sorry, when your political party wins at the federal level, it is customary that some state level talent is steered toward political jobs in the victorious administration, whether it's a Democratic administration or Republican administration. Mm-hmm. Given the fact that there are about 4,000 appointed positions in the federal government that are appointed when one party gives way to another, or when a new president assumes responsibilities, and that Oregon is 1.15% of the national population, that should mean about 43 positions go to Oregonians. But with Democratic administrations and with Republican administrations for a long time, for decades, Oregonians have not been placed into positions in the federal bureaucracy, or the federal appointed positions, nearly as would be suggested by our percentage of the population. What is your plan to place as many Oregonians from your party into positions at the federal level when your party is controlling the White House?
So hopefully those numbers of positions are going to decrease with Doge. We don't need that. It's the administrative state is bloated beyond belief. So I'm hoping that overall number is actually going to go down. One of the things that I have talked about for a long time is Oregon. We're the petri dish. We're the test state. We're a swing state, but not in the traditional sense. Radical ideas are tested in Oregon first. We're the first state to approve doctor-assisted suicide, the first state to approve abortion up until the moment of birth, the first state to decriminalize marijuana, the first state to decriminalize the possession of all hardcore drugs. That's only 4 of the horrible things that this state has passed. They test it here in Oregon. Then they take it statewide. The red flag gun bill, Congress passed it almost identical to the one that Oregon passed a few years ago by our legislature.
And just to clarify for our viewers, when you say they take it statewide, I think you mean they take it nationally.
They take it nationwide. So statewide here goes nationwide. I'm trying to, and I'm hoping as chair, because I'll be a member of the RNC, that I can bring a light to what is happening in Oregon and why we need that light shined on Oregon in a different way. President Trump kept referring to Portland and the riots that happened in Oregon. What they were doing there is absolutely ridiculous. Why should they reward Oregon when we've got a bunch of crazies running the state? I mean, really, a sanctuary state, give me a break. We'd rather have somebody that's broke the law to get into this country and harm our citizens and give them health care and Medicare and medical care, and food stamps and housing, than to take care of our homeless vets on the street in this state. It's ridiculous. It's dumb. So yeah, I'd like to see more appointments if we have the people that have the skill set. It shouldn't be given to us just as a number to meet a quota, but they have to have the skill set and the experience to be able to do the job to which they're being appointed. Otherwise, we're not doing the country any favors.
Well, a different way to ask that question, to expand a little bit on that. Many Oregonians, including many Oregon Republicans, believe that Oregon Republicans are Republican elected officials and those who are running for office, that Oregon Republicans have a real talent deficit. And this is why so few Oregonians are invited to serve in Republican administrations. What is your plan to develop Republican talent in Oregon so that Oregonians can be appointed to federal levels at the appropriate level, and also that Oregon Republicans, if you accept the premise of the question, that Oregon Republicans can compete more effectively?
So one of the challenges that we allegedly have, and part of the reason that we don't have the pool of candidates, and again, this is the alleged, it's a rather general statement, but it appears that most Republicans are providing for their families. They're working or they're homeschooling, they're taking care of them. Some of them get involved, a lot of them are involved with their churches. And so they don't go outside of that sphere. Apparently, a lot of the Democrats, they're given time off work from their union paid jobs or paid by the union to go out and politic. and to campaign and to go to these events, it's kind of a tilted thing. What we need to do is we need to put the value into why they need to be involved, why we need to put people on the water boards, the cemetery boards, the fire boards, the 911 boards. Some of those committees and commissions meet once a quarter. Once a quarter. Anybody can do that. Once a quarter. And then those are the people that we need to go talking to. There's a young man who's a farmer. I met him when I went back to get my undergrad in political science. I went back in 2011 and met this young man. And his dad is a grass seed farmer, and he works on the farm. He's on the water board. He used to come to the Linn County Republican Party Central Committee meetings, and he stopped coming. But he's a young man that we need to be tapping into. He has an interest in politics because what happens at the political level affects his farming. Kind of goes back to some of Dan's questions. So that's where we need to tap into is what is your affiliation with these committees and these advisory groups? That's where we grow our farm team. And we start bringing them up and see if they want to get more and more involved. I sat on the Albany Human Relations Commission for a very short time. The gal that was chairing that commission today is a city councilor, and she's very liberal. I've seen it in action, seen how it works from that standpoint. Oh, wow. Yeah, look, I've got this on my resume. We need to be doing that. And we have a lot of people. So if we can show them what little investment time there is and how important that time invested is, that we can start getting more and more people involved. And we need to start doing it at the college level and start getting the young Republicans, the college Republicans more involved and start getting them onto these boards and commissions, because especially the ones that are majoring in political science and looking at law degrees and stuff, we need to start plugging them in. And farmers and ranchers.
And you've just referenced Chair Danny Johnson. When you referenced Dan, I believe in that last
Danny Johnson
message. And that's a perfect segue because that concludes my questions for Section 3 of the Oregon Republican Party going forward. Chair Johnson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniel. Not that I need to defend the rural counties, because Baker County, I've been told by the county clerk, Baker County had 88% of the Republicans voting. Yes. So aside from that, in the November 2024 general election, the downline vote in Oregon didn't track as closely with the Donald Trump numbers, if I remember right. What do you think the reason for that was?
What's the one thing I've been talking about? Why is this not coming up? Oh, I know why. One of the reasons is, I've mentioned to it multiple times, messaging. We didn't get the message out. Vote for Donald Trump, vote for Donald Trump, vote for Donald Trump. We did not help to get Dennis Linthicum running for Secretary of State, Brian Boquist running for Treasurer. We helped Will Lathrop a little bit running for Attorney General. We didn't put the message out there why these seats are important. We didn't put the message out there, yes, vote for Donald Trump. Please vote down line. We didn't turn out the vote for Lori Chavez-Dramer. We lost that seat. That was a high stakes seat. We should have been messaging out there. There were some ads that were run, but not enough and not in the right markets, in my opinion, of, look, this is what's going to happen. If we lose that seat, it's going to be hard to get that seat back. This is an opportunity. But as I stated when we started, those three seats, Secretary of State, Attorney General, and Treasurer, no incumbents were running for those seats. We did nothing to help those candidates. My gosh, they practically handed it to us on a silver platter. And we ignored it. We didn't take advantage of it. We didn't do it. And that is a failure of the leadership. And I happen to like our current chair, Justin. I really like him a lot. But we have got to get somebody who's been in the trenches multiple times, like me. And I've seen what lack of support internally means and how we have to get that messaging out there. And I think that is so important to be able to do that. And to say, look, every position down ballot matters, because they're going to be voting on something that's going to affect you. It's going to affect your family. It's going to affect your pocketbook. It's going to affect your freedom. It's going to affect your food bill, your utility bill. Every single one of those positions will affect you in one way or another. And when I hear people say, I don't want to have anything to do with politics, I go, but politics has everything to do with you. The only part of your life that they might not be able to touch is when you're sleeping and your dreams. But you know what? They also regulate the mattress that you sleep on and the pillow that you use. Get involved. And that's a message that we have to be able to get out to people.
Thank you. So, if you were to develop the perfect candidate for the conservative movement in Oregon, how and what would that candidate look like to go into the metro area to make a difference and to resonate with those voters?
That candidate would have brown hair and about 5'4". She kind of looked like this. Oh, she'd be an everyday person, Main Street American, a person who's been through life's ups and downs, that gets it, that understands what the majority of people go through, what the majority of Oregonians go through. It'd be an everyday Main Street American would be what our founders envisioned, not somebody who grew up in a wealthy family, who doesn't want for anything, that if they want to take off for the weekend and go to Hawaii or go wherever, but somebody that's gone, yeah, I've been through the good, the bad, the ugly. I've come out the other side. I understand. Is that kind of person to be able to go into Metro Portland or go to Baker City, go to Klamath Falls, go to Curry County and talk to them, go, what are you struggling with? I know how you feel. I've been there too. Real everyday people is what we need. That's why I said somebody that looks like me, because that's me. I just described me, an everyday person that's gone through the hard times. And some people have gone through a lot worse things than I've gone through. And some people have had a very simple life, but at the end of the day, we're just all people. And we want to be able to have our freedom and live our lives like we want to live them, hopefully within the constraints of some laws, of most laws. But we want to be able to provide for our families and have a happy life, whatever that looks like to people. So that's really, and that resonates with everybody in the metro area. I could go up and talk to anybody that's not drugged out. And I say that with a heavy heart, but it unfortunately is true. We do have too many people that are hooked on various substances. But I could go in and talk to them, and I've done it. I've sat down and had coffee with Democrats and asked them what's on their mind. What do they care about? They care about the same things I care about. And again, it comes back to messaging and getting to the hearts of people, the hearts and minds. That's where it lays.
Thank you. So, do you have a close relationship with the members of the Republican caucus at the legislature? And if so, is there good coordination or cooperation between the caucus and the ORP?
So, no, I do not. Part of that is I have gone up there. I do know my state rep by name. She knows me by name. And what was the rest of your question? Sorry.
Just wondering if you have a relationship with the caucus, and is there cooperation between the ORP and the caucus, or coordination?
I don't know. We have every 2 years, as you know, we have a new set of there's some turnover there. I think for the most part, we're on the same page. They have their agenda and we have ours. They do have a seat on our executive committee. They do come and speak at our state central committee meetings. We do invite some of the members. I think that overall, I think we actually have a very good working relationship. And I think it's going to be changing dramatically with the change in election campaign finance laws to where they're not going to be able to get all the money sent their way. And I'm thinking that there might need to be a little bit more cooperation. One thing that we've noticed is that sometimes they stick together a little bit too much, even when a member votes with the Democrat Party on an egregious bill to help that bill pass. Well, actually, that one person I'm thinking about, that his vote was not even needed, and the fact that he voted in favor of that bill. He got censored by resolution by the Oregon Republican Party. He got primaried and is no longer a state rep. But the caucus wanted to stick by his side initially till they found out that it wasn't going to work, and the Republican Party said no. It's one of those rare times that's ever happened. But for the most part, I think we're on the page that we want what's better for Oregonians, and I'm hoping that we can build an even better working relationship.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Daniel?
Thank you so much, Chair Johnson. And I would note that even when we look at Chair Johnson's background, we see what looks to be the beautiful Pine Valley, but it's nighttime there as well. Chair Johnson, thank you so much for serving as our referee today. And Joe Ray Perkins, Oregon Republican Party Secretary. I would note that it is now 10:04 p.m. You've accommodated us very generously, our viewers will be able to tell from the lighting in here. We've filmed all the other episodes during the daytime, but Secretary Perkins was kind enough to accommodate us when she was available to. So it's 10:04 p.m. right now. Both of you have had an amazing, great high level of energy and responsiveness to this, and we thank you very much for appearing. Secretary Joe Ray Perkins, I'd like to give you the next to last word because I'm going to thank our viewers at the very end, but I'd love to give you an opportunity to make your closing statement now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel and Danny. I do appreciate it. It's amazing how fast 2 hours goes by when you're speaking about something you're very passionate about. For those of you that have a vote at the Oregon Republican Party organizational meeting on February 22nd, we have great candidates, and each one of us brings to the table a different flavor. We all have our own life experiences. We all have our views of how things should go. I've mentioned a few times, and I'll say it again. I am the only candidate that has run 3 times on a statewide race, having been blessed enough to be the U.S. Senator nominee twice. I received more votes in 2020 than any U.S. Senator nominee in Oregon history. 912,814 votes. We did it with less than $100,000. It's less than 10 cents a vote, and that is unheard of in the political arena. I bring that up because the Oregon Republican Party, we haven't been able to raise a lot of money, but messaging and knowing where to get that messaging out is what is important. And if we're going to be able to get candidates elected, we have to have people that are going to be able to learn that skill set, take these marketing ideas and put them to work. We've got to start winning. And if we don't start winning, we are going to completely lose our state. I love Oregon. I've traveled the state. I did a video. We never published it in 2020. It sounded like a tourism video because I talked about the Blue Mountains. I talked about the Cascades, Multnomah Falls, fishing on the coast, going rafting down the Rogue River, down the Deschutes River, hunting, fishing, camping, going down the Columbia River with your parasailing, hang gliding, so whatever that is, wind sailing, windsurfing, and hang gliding, all those fun things that we get. Oregon is so gorgeous. I love our state. It is beautiful. And I hate to see people leave. And I hate to see people on the east side go, look, we don't want to be part of Oregon anymore because you've abandoned us. This state matters. And I'm asking for your vote if you believe that I am the person that can start to turn the ship around. It's the Titanic, and it's not going to turn as fast as a Corvette, but we can turn it around, and it's going to take hard work. And I believe that I am the person that can do it. So I ask you for your vote. I ask you for your prayers, and please pray for our state. And please remember to pray for President Trump. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chair Danny Johnson from Baker County, you have joined us tonight, and we appreciate your contributions. Oregon Republican Party Secretary Joe Ray Perkins, thank you so much. And most importantly, to all of our viewers, thank you so much for joining us again for one of our episodes in Series 1, the Race for Oregon Republican Party Chair 2025. We believe that this is important and that we want you to get as good of a view at as many of the candidates as humanly possible. So until next time, let's keep talking, Oregon. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
We here at Town Hall 2025 wonder if maybe Oregon doesn't need more politics, but clearer politics. And maybe, just like teenagers, our politicians could benefit from clearer boundaries that you set. To support your responsibility for self-government, we are working to revive an Oregon where once we were able to disagree without being disagreeable. In the coming months, we hope to bring you, in their own words, leaders from all of our political parties. Thank you for joining us on Series 1, the Race for Oregon Republican Party Chair 2025. Next up will be Series 2, the Race for Democratic Party Chair 2025. I'm Daniel Crow, and this is Town Hall 2025. Until next time, let's keep talking.